Coming up, it is the 2025 ACSA Vice President Town Hall. We'll introduce you to the two candidates running for ACSA Vice President. We'll hear a little bit about their vision for our organization and give you an opportunity to ask our candidates questions. The 2025 ACSA Vice President Town Hall starts now. And it's 1 minute after 11 o'clock. Happy Tuesday to all of you. Welcome to the 2025 ACSA Vice President Town Hall Forum. I'm Naj Alikan. We're honored to have you with us today. We're going to introduce you to our two vice presidential candidates in just a couple of moments. And this is a live and interactive town hall. So you can put questions into our comment section, and we'll try and tackle some of those at the end of our broadcast today. Now, to just give you a little bit of background, the Leadership Assembly, the ACSA Leadership Assembly, will vote for the next ACSA Vice President at the May meeting, the May governance meetings in Burbank. And the Vice President will be part of the ACSA Executive Committee for 4 years and has a direct pathway to the ACSA presidency. We'll begin with opening statements today. We'll follow that up with questions, and we're also taking questions, as we mentioned, from viewers. We'll be going in alphabetical order today by last name to start, and our candidates will alternate with who responds first. The candidates will answer each question, and they have up to 2 minutes to provide their responses. Let's go ahead and bring in both of our candidates right now. Roxanne Fuentes is the superintendent from Berryessa Union School District, that is ACSA Region 8, and Terrence Davis, superintendent of Banning Unified School District, that is ACSA Region 19. Roxanne and Terrence, it's an honor to have you here on this 2025 ACSA Vice President Town Hall. As I mentioned, we'll be going through all of the opening statements and the questions in alphabetical order. So we will start with our opening statements, and Terrence Davis, you may begin.
All right, it's time to go. So good morning to everyone out there listening. Glad you were able to make it. And I just want to share a few things with our audience today in our ACSA membership. First, I am honored to be a candidate for the vice president position for state ACSA. It's been a short but interesting journey. I've been able to meet some people that I typically wouldn't meet. I've been able to learn some things that are happening across our state. And I've been able to attend a couple region meetings just to kind of share my thought and process. So one of the things I do want to share is my love for ACSA. Like most of us, I started ACSA because I heard about it was an organization that helped support administrators very early on in my career. And that was almost 20 years ago. So I'm pushing 20 years as a member. And the interesting thing about that, I thought, is I was a special educator, so I didn't have as much, the role was different. Then I learned I needed to connect more. So the other piece is about the professional growth that I've learned along the way. You know, as a region member, you get to know people in the region, which sometimes is your county or close in proximity. But I got to know people in the county, and I've actually worked in 4 school districts in Riverside County. So that really helped me to learn what our local issues are and how districts are providing support or what they're doing. Finally, the legislative process. I didn't know a lot about the legislative process, but I've learned a lot at the state and federal level. I've actually had an opportunity to do quite a few legislative actions at the state level as well as the federal level. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of great intent, but it's always what is the impact? And so I've been able to learn a lot, most importantly, in terms of how we best support our students.
And Roxanne, your opening statement.
Thank you. And good morning, everyone. First, I just want to thank everyone for joining Terrence and I this morning online and for supporting us through this experience. Through this, opportunity, I've had so many wonderful conversations and have learned so much more about the ACSA Association, as well as about all of the diverse regions that ACSA serves. I've heard from passionate educators up and down the state doing their very best each and every day to serve students and their communities. It's been an absolute pleasure to learn from each of you. And no matter the outcome, I will take that learning to continue to help move ACSA's mission forward. I've been an ACSA member since 2004, ever since I became a school principal. And throughout my years as an administrator, I've really valued all of my professional development supports that I've received through ACSA. Principal Institute, the various academies for curriculum and instruction, the Superintendent Academy, and then now really being able to be more active in equity institute planning committees, leadership summit planning committees, being a state board member. I've really relished the opportunities to network with colleagues up and down the state, and have really become very much invested in the ACSA platform, and look forward to this opportunity to be your vice president and to uplift your voice and everything that I've learned from each of you. I look forward to today's discussion.
Roxanne and Terrence, thank you so much for those opening statements. We'll go to our questions right now, and Roxanne, we'll have you respond first. Again, 2 minutes for your response. What do you see as the key issues in service of students, and how do you think ACSA can be involved in supporting those students?
Thank you for that question, Naj. And I'm going to take a broader perspective on this question, because right now, one of the most pressing issues in education is the growing challenge to public education itself. We're seeing increased political pressure, divisive rhetoric, and shifting federal policies that are really undermining the core principles of accessible education for each and every student. I see this impacting our students in two ways. First, student safety and well-being. And when I think about student safety and well-being, I'm thinking of several factors. I'm thinking about our immigrant students and families. I'm thinking about our LGBTQ plus students. And I'm also thinking about significant mental health and food and nutrition programs that are also currently at risk. You know, to think about all of these services that are so key in ensuring that our students can have productive, well-balanced education so that they can learn and not be fearful of being in school, and knowing that they have a safe place where they belong and where they can really prosper. Secondly, I also see this impacting our finances. We are currently in a state of fiscal uncertainty, not only at the state level, but now we have concern at the federal level as well. And so ACSA, I know, is very influential with our state and local leaders. And this is really a critical time for ACSA to put that voice forward to ensure that our state and local officials will continue to support each and every educator and school and district leader who's doing their best to enforce state and local policy to ensure our students have the supports that they need.
And Terrence, your response.
Okay, so I'll say this. Our landscape in California is so different because I've heard like Northern California and Southern California sometimes are like different states. So with that being said, our system is very complex. And so first of all, you have to know the context with which you're in, and it's all different. We have close to 1,000 school districts in our state. So understanding that is really important. So the first thing I'll say is, I want to list a few challenges that we have: student attendance, student behavior, educator pipeline. Roxanne talked about this, the gap in funding. We have a lot of unfunded mandates, and our students with disabilities numbers are drastically increasing. That means there's a lot of need for support, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. And finally, workplace wellness. So I want to just take a couple of those contingent on the time. The first one, I'll talk about the gap in funding. So as we see, and after coming back from the pandemic, the needs for our students have drastically increased. And as educators, we try to do our best to support students, but we need more resources. a long time ago, when I worked in special education, I remember the state number was about 10%. If you have students with disability, 10% was kind of high. Then it went to 12. In some places in the state, we're pushing 20%. That means there's huge need. And so that puts a strain on the system to make sure that we have the funding to support them. That's one. Number two, I want to talk about the educator pipeline. We are educators. All students come through our system, or the vast majority. What about if we started to promote our profession? I don't think we do a really good job of promoting our profession to current students in terms of what they can do in the future and to the world. Imagine if our platform as ACSA was, come one, come all. We need you to change the world. I think we have to do that work because it's not going to come to us. And then the last thing I want to talk about is workforce wellness. How do we ensure that we're in the best space possible to do the challenging work that's ahead of us? And I think ACSA can really support us in all of those things.
All right. Folks, again, for our viewers, if you have any questions for our two vice presidential candidates, go ahead and put those into the comment section. We'll go to question 2, and Terrence, we'll have you respond first. Let's discuss equity, because the COVID-19 pandemic created new or exacerbated existing equity issues. And now we're seeing attacks on equity and programs meant to support our marginalized students. What are some ways ACSA can be a leader in confronting equity issues that are at the forefront in California public education? Terrence, 2 minutes.
Well, I love the question, because I'll say this again, going back to the context is different. You have to know the context. If we're talking statewide, one measure, one application, one way to do things isn't going to work everywhere. So we have to look at first, I think, what is the need in your specific district, in your specific region, in your space? What is the need? So we have to look at the differences first, and then you have to find out what is needed. So what is needed to provide support to students, one, and to staff that typically is not provided. So I will say it this way, and this is how I think, and this is how I kind of breathe and live. I embed equitable practices into every single thing that I do. I live it and breathe it based upon my upbringing and what I experienced in my life. So that means that we all need something different. I said years ago that special education was going to turn into, if you will, every student on an IEP. And that's basically, if we did that, if we provided what each student needs, I guarantee you we'd be in a better space. The other thing I want to talk about is when you do that, when you as the leader or a leader in a team make equitable practices the focus, everything changes. Because I'll just use banning as an example. We celebrate diversity. It is a part of our mission statement, but we also make every decision based upon what's needed. So the last 3 things I'll say, and this is about actions, it's about what our actions are, how we make decisions based upon what's needed. 2, what are our attitudes around it? And if our attitude is centered around, no, you don't need this, or whatever the case is, we're in the wrong space. We have to have the right attitude to get people what they need. And finally, that deals with our behavior. What is our behavior centered around looking at diversity and looking at how we support each student as well as each staff member?
And Roxanne, your response, 2 minutes.
Thank you. I think, equity has always been a core issue in public education. It's about providing all the essentials that a student needs in order to be successful. I think it's really important for us to stay focused on, students and their needs, and making sure that we're using data to drive the work to support them. I think oftentimes, we can get distracted by a lot of the politics around equity, but really we need to move past that, and we need to stay focused on our students and the communities that we serve. As Terrence mentioned, we have a diverse state. We have diverse student populations that we serve, and that's where making sure we have data-informed decision-making is really critical, so that our resources that we have at our accessibility are being targeted targeted and utilized in the best manner possible. How can ACSA be a leader in providing equitable access to an excellent education for each and every student? It's by elevating our various voices across the state, giving us a forum to be able to share best practices, making sure that we're able to highlight the good work that's happening up and down the state in the best interest of students. I know that we can lead through very courageous actions when we work together and we unify. One thing that's really important to remember when it comes to our students are nonpartisan. It's our moral imperative to stand in the gap for kids. We know that there are certain populations that have had less opportunity, and we need to make sure that we can uplift them and that we are doing that work within our district by making sure that we mobilize and we provide every resource possible that we have at our dispense. And ACSA has the platform to ensure that we have the resources to do just that.
Thank you so much for that. And do want to thank all of our viewers who are watching live our 2025 ACSA Vice President Candidate Forum. Let's go ahead and go to our next question. Roxanne, we'll have you respond first. Student and education leaders, advocacy, are incredibly important. And we've seen examples of that time and time again this year. So let's talk about how we can expand that role and continue to push ACSA as the leader in student and educator advocacy.
So thank you for that question. And I love this question. I think, student voice and leader voice go hand in hand. Our students are, incredibly talented, intelligent, young people, and they know what their needs are. And I think over the past few years, we've seen more and more examples where they really come forward and they've expressed, what they want in their classrooms, what they aspire to be. And it's our role as their leaders to support them in those endeavors. I know most recently I had the opportunity to attend ACSA Mid-State, and I was very, very entranced with a student panel that was representing the California Student Council Association. Many of these students are student board members, and they were so attuned to today's issues and really wanting a place to have their voices be heard. They just needed that training and that support and guidance on how to navigate our school system, how to navigate our local and state systems to be able to get their voices elevated, and so that the adults around them could get a better understanding of what they need. I also feel that, we have a variety of school districts, all shapes and sizes across the state of California with varying needs. And it's really important for each one to be able to tell their story. And that's where through ACSA's outreach, we can be sure that every voice and every need is heard. And it's critical, especially when we're looking to shape state and federal policy, that these stories be highlighted and be elevated. And so I think, again, that's a powerful tool that ACSA has through the many venues, whether it's through a conference, through committees and councils, through webinars like your lunch break, Naj, that we can elevate student and educator voice on key issues that are happening today.
And Terrence, your response, 2 minutes.
Dan, that was well said, and I love the student component of that. But I'll say this, ACSA is a leader in advocacy. ACSA is the leader in educational advocacy in our state. So I'll say that first. Next is, I would agree, listening to what students need is so critical. A lot of times we get going down a pathway, we need to do X, we need to do Y, but we're not listening to the people that it impacts. Are we listening to students? Are we listening to parents? So I'll say this, I think first we have to identify what the key issues are. And again, I'm gonna say it again and again, it goes back to context, because it's not the same in every single district. But we think it is, we only think it is if we're not out there listening to different regions or different districts about what the challenges are, because they, in some cases, are very different. But I think once you know what the issues are and what the key challenges are, I think you have to do first a few things. You have to know the issue. So you have to do some research. You have to understand the why behind that. And then you have to articulate those differences within that context. So as an example, in the previous district that I worked in is come day and night from where I work now. So the challenges are different. So the approach should be different. And if we're just doing the same thing, just because it's the right thing to do, we may not be making the biggest impact for our students. And then I'll back up a little bit to the advocacy point. I would say in our state, we're very strong. ACSA is a strong component to say, hey, let's advocate for this, or this bill or legislation is not necessarily in the best interest. It may have good intent, but the impact is huge. And then I would say increasing that or bumping that up on the federal level will really assist us, because we all know we're moving along doing things and all of these changes come about, and it is our job to implement it. And ACSA has done a great job with that advocacy, but we have to know the voice. We have to know the voice.
And folks, I do see that we do have a couple of questions that have come in from our viewers, and we'll go ahead and tackle those in just a couple of moments. First off, let me ask you about 5 years from now. I'm going to ask you both to bring out your crystal ball. Where's our organization, and how do you think your perspective position in state ACSA leadership can move us in that direction? Terrence, we'll have you respond first.
So I love this question. So one, I think we need to have more members. So, when teachers join your school district, it's almost like mandatory. There is an opt-out, but most likely most members go in to the association. Same thing with CSEA. So just imagine every single administrator going into ACSA. That builds the strength even more than it is now. And again, we have to be the advocates of promoting that. We're the best promoters of it, but I don't think we do a really good job at that. We can do better. Next, I would say stronger connected front. It is my understanding that ACSA is one of the largest educational organizations in the country. That's extremely powerful, very influential. I know the relationships that are developed definitely at the state level between ACSA and advocacy. And I would say we need to continue that and keep students at the focus. The next thing I would say is we need to have an even stronger educational resources for all. Again, here are buckets, if you will, of what's going to support a student base or staff base, depending on the organization, depending on the context. One size does not fit it all. But if we use our strength collectively, if we use the connectedness that we have with each other, we'll come out with better answers, better resources. And finally, it is my goal and mission in life to create courageous leaders. Because when you have that courageousness is not being angry or upset. Courageousness is just saying, hey, I think this, therefore I'm going to say it. And in most cases, that infuses that body of people to think differently. When we start to think differently, we have divergent thinking. We all have different experiences. That only makes us stronger, which has a better direct impact on students.
And Roxanne, your response.
Thank you. Again, I think ACSA is in a great position today and will be in an even better one 5 years from now. I'm really proud of the work that ACSA has put in developing its strategic plan, in developing its One Voice platform. And I know that if we continue to stay focused on that path, we will continue to rise and be a beacon in education realm, not only in California, but across the country. I do see in 5 years from now, we have higher levels of engagement, making sure that we continue to do that outreach and connect with all of the diverse school districts that California serves, making sure that we increase that membership to all of our educators across the state, including aspiring administrators. And I also don't want to forget our classified administrators who are working very hard along alongside us to make sure that we have wonderful school systems for our communities. I also feel that we can always be better communicators, stronger connectors, and I see us continuing to be innovative in that realm on how we can bring members together and how we can continue to create forums so that we can share best practices and have really deep dialogue around the issues that are needing to be addressed in order to stay focused on our students. And then finally, I think I also just see that we continue to be influential in state and federal policy, continuing to have that strong voice and advocacy in the best interest of our students. And I know that ACSA will continue to shine.
And we do have a couple of viewer questions, as I mentioned, and this one, it was a long one, but I'll paraphrase it. And Roxanne, I'll have you respond first 2 minutes. ACSA represents nearly 18,000 members, and with that comes different political opinions. How will you guide the organization, ensuring that members are represented regardless of their political affiliations? Roxanne, I'll have you start.
Thank you for that. And I'm going to go back to a comment I made earlier today. And when it comes to students, I feel students are nonpartisan. We do have very diverse communities across the state of California. I've had the opportunity to serve communities in both Southern and Northern California. And I know the dynamics differ greatly. I do feel, though, in the best interest of our students, we need to make sure that our conversations and our decision-making stay student-centered. So long as we can do that, I think we will be able to bridge any differences that our members may have when it comes to having various political perspectives. I've been able to do that well, even with my own school board. As we have new school board members come on board, they're not all of the same political persuasion. But if we can have thoughtful and reflective dialogue on what our students need, and we ensure that our decision making is in the best interest of them, then we can continue to move forward and gain consensus in a positive way. And so I see that it'll be important for us to continue to do outreach and to hear. Also, I think it's important to be able to hear those diverse opinions so we can have the best action to move forward.
And Terrence, your response, 2 minutes.
I love the question. And actually, this is a reason why I ran for state vice president. I was overhearing some conversations about concerns about where ACSA was going, people possibly pulling out. And I had no idea that there was even conversation about that. And when I was at a meeting, I stopped and I looked at the ACSA mission and vision. And the ACSA mission and vision is about students. It's about students. The organization of those 18,000 members are members who support students. So if that's our focus, if that's what our mission and vision is, we need to spend our time there. Regardless of what your political, religious, whatever the affiliation may be, whatever it is, it's about students. So when our students have challenges, what do we do to support them? And I think we have to look at that as on an individual basis within the context of the district. And so for me, I would, directly responding to the question is you're absolutely right. We need to look at the membership as a totality of differences of thoughts, opinions, and we should love the diversity that we have in this state. But given that, you have to listen to the diversity. You have to listen to the thoughts and feelings that people have, and then collectively pull from that, again, to focus on students and our membership. That is the key to it all. Education is going to continue to evolve. There's going to be a different administration in 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. Our focus shouldn't change. It should be about students and the staff that support them.
We got this question in from Martha Martinez, and I'll give you both an opportunity to just kind of think through while I go over some particulars. But Martha asked the question, what are top 3 educational challenges that we'll take on to move the educational agenda forward. So I'll give you a moment to think through that, just to let our viewers know. Our leadership assembly will vote for the next ACSA vice president at the May meeting in Burbank, and the vice president will be part of the ACSA executive committee for 4 years and has a direct pathway to the ACSA presidency. And so we are joined here today by both of our vice president candidates. Roxanne Fuentes is the superintendent from Berryessa Union School District, that's ACSA Region 8, and then Terrence Davis, superintendent of Banning Unified School District, that is ACSA Region 19. So I just had that question from Martha. I'll go ahead and say it again. And Terrence, I'll have you respond first for 2 minutes. What are top 3 educational challenges that will take on to move the educational agenda forward? Terrence, your first response.
Well, I listed a few earlier: student attendance, student behavior, educator pipeline, the gap in funding to support our learners who need the most in the workforce wellness. And so I'll say this without getting back into that. These are 2 things that directly impact the context and where I'm in, and I don't see a clear solution. One is parent engagement. There are communities who have outstanding parent engagement. That is the way you connect what you're doing in the school environment to home. We need everyone. We need the school, we need the parents, we need the community in order for it to kind of meld and for it to work right, understanding the differences in each of those areas. And so for me personally, I think that is an area where I would like to drastically improve and see some other models. One of the things that ACSA provides is it provides us with an opportunity to look at best practices across the state. And I know there are some districts out there knocking it out of the park. And I want to learn those things to increase the parent engagement. The next thing I would talk about, and this is something I'm really excited about, is looking at data analysis. Now, I absolutely am an instructional leader, but coming from the HR side and special education side, it always wasn't a focus. And I am finally at a point in my career after 27 years that I'm going to focus, we in Banning are going to focus on our data. That is the only way that I see for us to move forward. If we're not focusing on that, we don't know what's happening. It's just like your blood when you go to the doctor. Something's wrong. You can't just diagnose yourself, put a blindfold over your head and say, oh, I'm going to eat oranges and I'm going to get better. No, we need to look at the analysis of our blood. Same thing. We need to look at the analysis of how we're performing in a variety of ways, including wellness, to ensure we're dialed in, we're looking at it to make the best changes forward.
And Roxanne, your response to Martha's question.
Thank you. Several issues here. I think first, declining enrollment, financial uncertainty, and I'm going to say student literacy and achievement. Declining enrollment, I think, is a very pervasive issue right now. Being a district myself, going through school consolidation, we know several districts have had to deal with that challenge in these past few years, and there's going to be more to come. So really need to be able to huddle up so we can all share best strategy to be able to navigate continued financial uncertainty and how that's going to impact our school districts and our communities. What we're seeing right now is a lot of really high need communities having to close schools, reconsolidate, and restructure. What are opportunities in that? How can we better serve our students to be able to maximize resources so they're continuing to get a premier educational program? Going back to financial uncertainty and continuing to have unfunded mandates, we need to be proactive on that. We need to make sure that we have our voices heard at the state and local level so that we can continue to provide policy with good intent, but with the resources behind it so we can ensure that we can successfully do the work and provide our students with the services that they need. And finally, when I talk about student literacy, we know there's so much that impacts our student academic achievement and growth. And they've been impacted by so much since the pandemic. And we need to be sure that we can continue to have the support for their mental health and well-being. We know that students need to be well before they can learn, and that then we have the best data and the best resources possible so that we can focus on those academics that they so deeply need.
All right, folks, we are past the bottom of the hour, but I want to go and give both of our great candidates here an opportunity for some closing statements. And Roxanne, I'll have you start. 2 minutes for your closing statement.
As we close, I just want to thank everyone for this opportunity to speak, not just as a candidate for ACSA Vice President, but as a fellow leader who deeply is committed to the mission of public education. I believe in the power of school leadership to transform lives. And I believe ACSA is the organization uniquely positioned to lead that transformation. We are at a critical moment. Public education is being challenged in many ways that we haven't seen before. But in that challenge, there's also opportunity, an opportunity to unify, to elevate our voices, and to lead boldly on behalf of each and every student, no matter their zip code or background. If elected, I will work tirelessly to ensure that every leader, whether from a traditional district or a charter setting, from a large urban center or a small rural community, feels a sense of belonging, support, and value in ACSA. I will champion equity as a guiding principle, and I will push for strong, proactive advocacy so ACSA is not just responding to change, but driving it. Together, we can build the future of this organization and ensure it continues to be the home for courageous, compassionate, and visionary leaders. I'm ready to serve, and I would be honored to have your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Roxanne. Terrence, your closing statements, 2 minutes.
So again, I am so honored to have the opportunity to be a candidate for state vice president. But I'll say this, after 27 years, I personally am in the best space I've ever been in public education. I actually feel like I have the opportunity to work with a great team to make a change for our students and community where I am in Banning. And that is the best feeling I've ever had. And our community feels it, our staff feel it, our student feel it, and it's the best space ever. And I want to share that. I want to share that with each and every one of you because I'm so excited about where we are and where we're going. Next, I want to bring up the term connectedness. It goes back to, I think, as a connected body, sometimes we hear things that people say, we think they say something, we may misinterpret it. But when you're connected to someone, it takes a different kind of feeling how you work together. You see through some of the barriers and get to what can make things better. Finally, ACSA will continue to evolve. ACSA has always evolved. And so right now, yeah, we're dealing with some challenging times, but there's always challenging times. So I see it as something where ACSA will continue to evolve and be in the best space ever to continue to help our students. And ACSA is the premier educational organization. And I'm really proud of that. I'm proud to be a part of that. And I just want to continue to be a part of something that flourishes. It makes anyone feel good when they're a part of something that's supporting students and people. Finally, I would ask for your vote and I would ask for your support. But more importantly, I would ask for your partnership. Because no matter what happens, we're going to keep moving together collectively, together, stronger and better to build ACSA as the best organization ever. Continue to build it so we can do what's best for kids. And so I would just ask that we lead with courage. We say what we feel, we say what we mean, but we listen and we learn from each other to be the best ever. Thank you.
And let me thank both of our vice president candidates, Roxanne Fuentes, Superintendent, Berryessa Union School District, ACSA Region 8, and Terrence Davis, Superintendent, Banning Unified School District, that's ACSA Region 19. Good luck to both of you, and we'll see you in a few weeks at ACSA Leadership Assembly. Take care. And folks, I want to thank all of you for joining us here on this 2025 ACSA Vice President Town Hall. Again, our ACSA Leadership Assembly will cast their votes for the next ACSA Vice President at the May governance meetings in Burbank, and the winner will be announced when that voting closes. Again, thank you so much for being here with us on this town hall. A reminder, the ACSA Legislative Lunch Break comes your way tomorrow, 1 p.m. here on ACSA Facebook and ACSA YouTube. Have a great rest of the day and rest of the week, And we'll see you tomorrow afternoon, 1 p.m. for the ACSA legislative lunch break. Take care.